now. Here we go now. Here we go now.
It's Wednesday night, and here we are bebopping with you along the way. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor with my co-host, Howard Bender. Howard, how the hell are you today?
Hello, Lisa Ann. I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself? How are you doing today?
I felt a little too tall. I just had to lower my seat. I don't know why. I just felt a tall vibe. And I was like, I need to click down my seat. You know, I was just listening to you and Jim. And I realized Jim still does not want to admit that he stacked the Cowboys because he then said, I don't play fantasy like a fan.
I mean, listen, I deal with this with Jim all the time. I love him to death, but there are times where, listen, there are times where he will lean into his homerism, and we deal with that on the regular. And then there are times where you're so oblivious to it, Jim. I don't understand it, but nevertheless, it was just
I
the
do
difference between being a
like
homer
to
and not.
call. I do like to say. I do like calling you though. Like when there's a caller and we have two questions in the chat tonight, right here. I will be able to say ring, 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 ring. I am going to. Okay, Howard, you give me a little rundown on catch up with your week because I'm going to do a little sound check right here.
All right. Well, my week was, the usual, I guess you could say. All work and no play makes poor Howard a very dull boy. But I mean, listen, working my tail off here, doing my best to help make millionaires out of the Fantasy Alarm family. I take a little me time here at night. I'll watch. Fish is now touring. They did 3 nights in Nashville, 2 nights in Dayton, then they go to Chicago. So I sit and I watch the shows at night to kind of decompress from my day, and and that's kind of helps balance me out for the week. But this weekend, Lisa, I mean, this is the big one. It's Half Moon Bay Pumpkin Fest. Like this is like Half Moon Bay is the pumpkin capital of the world.
First of all, can you give me a sound check, Howard? Do I sound better to you right now?
No, you sound a little weirdly echoey. I don't know what
Okay.
happened. You might have to leave and come back. That seems to be the I don't mean to be like Comcast and be like, could you unplug for 20 seconds and then plug it back in? Like I love that kind of analysis.
All right, everybody, you're going to handle this. You're going to handle the reins for me right now, Howard Bender. I'm going to leave and come back, everybody. I will go. Let me do this.
All right. Well, we're going to see what happens. Lisa Ann's going to pop out. Howard's going to stay here. I know that you guys all came to see her and nobody came here to see me. But you know what? Listen, it is what it is. And sometimes,
he's cute. Who's he?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. I'll tell you who's cute. That's me. That's me. Listen, we got a great show planned for you guys here today. You're obviously not going to want to miss it. Lisa Ann's going to catch us up on everything that's been going on with her. We're going to talk some NFL news and notes. We're going to go through all the different injuries. I mean, we haven't, we got to hear Lisa Ann's take here. Look who's back. How do you sound?
I don't know. You tell me. Do I
You sound wonderful.
Oh, yay. That is the answer. And remember, there was a time in our lives where we actually would sit on hold. There was no chat person to ask you 8 questions that didn't fit into your category. So you actually sat on hold with the cable company. And what did they tell you to do? Have you unplugged your cable box? So you were right. Stepping out and coming back in is the answer. And yes, I am right here with you. I'm sorry I didn't catch anything about the Pumpkin Festival, but
I didn't tell anybody. I saved the Pumpkin Festival's talk for you. Come on.
Okay. Well, you share the Pumpkin Festival and I'll share what I did over the weekend.
Well, I mean, listen, the pumpkin festival hasn't happened yet, but Half Moon Bay, as the pumpkin capital of the world, puts on quite the extravaganza, including a pumpkin pie eating contest, several weigh-offs of very large gourds. And I mean, there's just, I mean, it's, you know what it is? It's like they took like a New York street festival and they chucked it right into Main Street of Half Moon Bay. It's a little more artsy fartsy at times, but overall, you know what the festival circuit, like the street festival circuit's like. A lot of, lot of socks for purchasing. Maybe if you're doing some underwear shopping, you can, pick something up off the table, the discount table. It's a fun time there. It's a little more artsy fartsy here, but you know what? Who doesn't love a good small town kind of pumpkin festival type vibe?
So, we all want to know, I'm sure everybody, and thank you for the sound check. Everyone knows this is important to me. They give me sound checks when I do my Facebook lives, my IG lives. We all want to know, Howard, will you get a pumpkin that you carve for, say, trick or treat?
No, I don't believe in pumpkin violence like that. I try to stay away from it as much as possible. Well, my wife, when we closed the club, right, like during COVID, she hooked up with our neighbor down the street who used to be the mayor of Half Moon Bay. He also happens to be one of the larger pumpkin distributors from Half Moon Bay. So Deb was slinging pumpkins, for I don't know, I guess it was like 2 seasons that she was working over there. And so, like pumpkins for us now, apparently there's like a whole world of pumpkins out there, Lisa Ann, that it's not just the orange jack-o'-lantern type things. There are different colors, different shapes, different sizes. Some are called starburst pumpkins. I mean, there's just like a whole world that I did not know about. So to violently carve one's eyes out and eat the entrails, it just doesn't do it for me.
I get it. I completely understand that, and I won't make you do it. And yes, there are multiple types of pumpkins. And you'll know this when you see someone like, let's say, Oprah, who does a beautiful display for Halloween, and they're all different colored pumpkins, like coming off a patio down the steps. It's fabulous. But I spent 72 hours in Sicily, Italy this weekend, Howard, and I wasn't sure if I filled you in on the fact that I was going to Italy last weekend.
You did not. You did not. Yes, last week we were filled with there was some drama going on in your life, people we wanted to, just kind of not deal with. How did you end up in Sicily for the 72 hours here? When did this all come about?
So, for the past year, I've been working on this whole thing. I'm bringing wine from Sicily, from a winery in Sicily, to the US, private labeling. We went through the whole which of the grapes I love the most. That was like last December, was the beginning of this process. And one thing I've learned in business is, keeping the secret is sometimes the most important part, right? Not letting your branding get out, not letting anything get out. Well, I had to learn a lot over this past year. The license, the labeling, the customs in one country has to approve your labels, and the customs here has to approve your labels. Then once that's done, they have to be printed there, put on the bottles there, so that when they go through customs here, my wine arrived in the US last week. But last weekend was the final harvest for next year's grapes. So I just wanted to go and be a part of the harvest and really learn about every step from taking a grape off of a vine to actually pouring a glass of wine. And I will say, immersed in Ganji, Italy, which is an incredibly small town, 2.5 hours from the closest airport, which is Palermo. And Ganji is a very small city built on the top of the mountain, tons of history there, less than 6,000 people. Stayed in our own apartments looking over the city. And this mountaintop city is just surrounded by vineyards. So my vineyard of 100 acres, incredibly beautiful space. I spent the weekend there, so Saturday and Sunday in Ganji. And then on Monday, drove down the coast to see Cefalù, which I had never been there, beautiful beach city, and then ended in Palermo, so we'd be close to the airport to get back on time so I could see you right here, right now.
Well, I thank you for that. In your time of going from the grape leaving the vine to pouring yourself a glass of wine, did you have any kind of an I Love Lucy moment where you were stomping grapes for the wine?
So I asked that because so many people have a foot fetish, and I told them that I thought we would sell more if I stomped it with my feet. And they were like, no, we don't do this anymore. It's not sanitary. We have machines for that. We don't let human hands touch this. All organic and pure. We
Yeah,
don't
but
want
in
to
this
wash it.
economy, why not?
See, I'm with you, Howard. And also, I really want to tie in the foot fetish thing, right? So I was like, there's a wine brand out there that's something like Bare Feet or something. And I'm like, so I brought all of this up. I was looked a little side eyed because some things get lost in translation. And I was only dealing with one English speaking person my entire time there. So, it did get lost a bit, but there was no feet stomping like Lucille Ball, but a lot of success, and I absolutely fell in love with the countryside, and I love Sicily.
Right? I mean, aren't you just ready to just move away from like the big city life and just retire into the country like that? Like that's like I feel like I mean that's probably one of the reasons why I'm gonna end up in Alaska at some point is because I just want to move away from it all and be in like the middle of like all the quiet. Like I can't imagine the shock of going back to New York City after like spending 72 hours in like small countryside town beach coastal area of Sicily.
I slept with my windows and doors and everything open up in the apartment in Ganji. And the first night, believe it or not, they were having a local music festival, Howard, and it echoed till 3 o'clock in the morning, which I didn't mind because I'm used to noise in New York. But what was cool
Mhm.
about it was the acoustics and how it just kind of vibrated in between the mountaintop buildings. But then the second night, it was so quiet. I could hear like things buzzing around outside. I could hear a dog barking. It was probably like 30 miles away at a vineyard. It was spectacular.
Well, there it is.
I I absolutely loved it. But I'll tell you what I didn't love. I didn't love the fact. Now I caught up on things. I
Mhm.
barely tinkered with lineups, and I actually did better because I didn't make any emotional, let me bench Najee Harris kind of decisions on Sunday morning. I had it, just had enough. But what I didn't like was when I landed and nothing was coming in more and faster than injury reports, and not just players that are injured on fantasy teams that I am trying to manage, Howard. Justin Jefferson being number one.
This is a big one. I mean, this whole week, I mean, was just a very big week, and definitely we could start with Justin Jefferson. I'm sure you've got a number of other players that you want to discuss. I mean, I guess the real question is how are we replacing him? They say that KJ Osborne's just going to move over as the X receiver. Osborne's been seeing the second highest snap percentage on the team anyway, so. He's going to move into the Justin Jefferson role. You're going to see a lot more Jordan Addison, which is nice. It's really great for people. Those are the two wide receivers to own if you're in fantasy. If you're looking for that, I'm not so huge on Brandon Powell or Jalen Naylor. Maybe those guys are like a DFS dart throw at some point. It is a soft matchup against Chicago, so maybe you could get away with there, but. Yeah, this is a big deal. And I'll tell you what, we've been talking about this a lot on the shows. If you're 5-0, 4-1, all right, go try and you didn't have Justin Jefferson, go try and trade for him right now. Stockpile him and just get him in there, hold him for, on your bench or your IR, whatever you have to do, but be able to have him come the playoff time. Because your team is really good right now. If you're 1-4, if you're 0-5, and you have Justin Jefferson, sell him. That's it. Help
Agreed.
yourself for right now. Don't worry about what's going on come playoff time. You have to get to the playoffs first. So
Britt Flynn in the room. Great to see you, Britt. It is always lovely when you join. Britt Flynn says, and there's an emoji involved, so let's take this seriously. Jordan Addison has an ankle injury. Extremely crying face emoji, and not to be mistaken with crying face laughing emoji. This is actually crying face sad emoji.
yeah, that's a bummer. Did that just happen here? Is that what we're dealing with now? Because I mean, listen, if that's the case, if Jordan Addison is dealing with an ankle injury, then increase in targets for TJ Hawkinson, more work for KJ Osborne, and Brandon Powell, who everybody probably just left sitting on the waiver wire. is now probably a guy you want to go and add right this second if you can, and just kind of keep him stashed, because if Addison's going to deal with this ankle injury against the Bears, somebody's got to catch the football.
Well, let me ask you this on the reverse of this. How much does Justin Jefferson's absence devalue Kirk Cousins? Because Kirk Cousins was drafted by some people who could not draft Justin Jefferson. You got Cousins later off. Justin Jefferson's make Kirk Cousins look really good. Where do you rank Kirk Cousins with no Justin Jefferson?
I mean, he's obviously still a matchup-based guy, and it's a favorable matchup for him. You didn't draft Kirk Cousins only because he's got Justin Jefferson. You drafted Kirk Cousins because Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips are all about throwing the football, and neither one of them are really that big into the running game. So Alexander Mattison, whatever, Cam Akers, whatever. It's about Kirk Cousins throwing the ball 40 times a game, and he's still going to do it even without Justin Jefferson there. So you're still going to have high volume passing for Kirk Cousins. Will he probably, have a lower completion rate because I'm sure Justin Jefferson makes him look a lot better than he actually is? Yeah, sure. But, I think it still wheels up for Kirk Cousins.
Look, I see a lot of comments coming in, some start, some trade questions, and we'll get to them in a little bit. Don't worry, I can scroll back. I'm not going to miss any of your comments. I want them to get robust in there. I want to have a lot of that going on. Let's hit over to the quarterbacks. I finally get to play Anthony Richardson. I didn't play him the first 2 weeks. Then he gets the concussion. He's out. Then I realized I should play him. Now I play him. And now Anthony Richardson has been put on IR.
Yeah, that's a tough one for people. It's kind of interesting though when you're looking at it. If you drafted Anthony Richardson, you're clearly bummed out. He was rushing for a touchdown, at least a touchdown a game, and Jim Bob Cooter turned around and said we're not going to change his style of play at all, even with the concussions. But I'll tell you what, you just got back Jonathan Taylor. You're going to have to lean a little bit more on Jonathan Taylor. Gardner Minshew, I have no interest in him at all. But you know what? He's probably not a worse passer than Anthony Richardson is. He's a better passer, which maybe that helps boost the value of a guy like Josh Downs, who saw a ton of targets with Gardner Minshew under center. Maybe it helps Michael Pittman as well. It's sort of like, you take away the mobile QB, you put in a guy who's, a little bit better of a passer, and it kind of helps the players around him a little bit more. So I don't mind the outside players not having Anthony Richardson.
And those of you in here who want to be a part of our DFS challenge on DraftKings, we'll be talking about our chalk and who we may be playing. Minshew may be a little bit of a value, Howard, but that's something we'll get to. The link will be going out on my timeline. It's a free league, 200 players. It's free challenge, 200 players. We do it every week, and we read the winning lineup from the week before on the show. So make sure you get into that. Other quarterback news, now I got to say, I've been sus on the two Jones quarterbacks for quite some time. And you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Mr. Daniel and Mr. Mac, but Bill Belichick says he is still going to start Mac Jones. I don't know what to say, but I don't have any shares, so it doesn't really bother me either.
Yeah, to me, it's a non-starter. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could say that you're going to bench Mac Jones, and I still don't care. I don't love any of the offense that's going on over there for New England. The defense is getting all banged up and hurt right now. So, this is a situation where, you wish that you would see more out of Ramondre Stevenson, especially with the way everybody was drafting him, myself included. I was drafting Ramondre, in that, late third, early fourth round. In some cases, depending on where the injuries were hitting, you might have even taken Ramondre in the second round, late second. But either way, I'd like to see him get going, at least in part. But there's nothing off of that team. Even Hunter Henry, whatever. There's nobody there in fantasy I want at all.
Can I just say, you really, that's triggering you mentioning Hunter Henry. For many seasons, I've been a huge Hunter Henry advocate, really believed in Hunter Henry. And this was a season where I was like, I am not doing this. No way. By week 2, I'm like, maybe you're missing out, Lisa. Maybe you should waste your waiver wire pick and, you should get Hunter Henry. I know I don't like his quarterback. I don't know why I did that. Now I have him on my team. You can't trade him. Nobody's interested. So it's been, yeah, that you say that just let's just get to the last tidbit in quarterback situations. Deshaun Watson did not practice today. He's got a shoulder thing going on still. Let me get over the Hunter Henry thing.
You try and get over the Hunter Henry thing. I don't know. I don't know if I could. Yeah, this Deshaun Watson situation is kind of a big crap fest too, because he's not going to play this week. It's going to be PJ Walker under center. This game total here, though, the lowest on the slate, 37.5 points. So either this is going to be like 31-3 San Francisco, or there's a lot more faith in this Cleveland Browns defense than meets the eye. And maybe it's like a 21-10 or 24-10 type of game. But either way, bad stuff for Cleveland.
Bad stuff for Cleveland. We had been waiting for so long to see Deshaun Watson have a full season of an opportunity. We drafted high. We saw some shines of it. We saw Amari Cooper getting involved week 2, week 3, and everything has changed overnight. And Cleveland is lucky that they can lean on their defense a bit. But if you ask me, I kind of want to go with the over on that total, because I look at it like, why would San Fran not just smack him in the mouth and keep getting? Yes, I understand the defense is good, but eventually they're going to get worn out, being that the defense can be out there for too long. That's going to be the issue.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am 100% with you.
In some running back news, you and I both pretty high on James Conner this season, and he had been producing, but that will not be the case right now, because he's going on short-term IR.
Yeah, this is a huge bummer for fantasy owners, indeed. I think James Conner, probably one of the more underrated running backs in the NFL. He was the bell cow back for this team, and he was putting in all that work. Amari
By the way, and SIZZLE is the first time I ever saw this sidebar. They have cow crossings on the streets because they're not fenced in. And if they want to cruise across the street, they just can. I had never seen signs before that had cow crossing.
Oh, yeah. You gotta come hang out in farm country, right? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I guess the real question is it DeMarcado? What's going to happen with Keontae Ingram? The funny thing about it was that, Ingram was the number 2 behind James Conner before he started dealing with this neck injury.
Yep.
So he wasn't active last week, which is why DeMarcado got, all of that work. Now, the question is, this week, will you stay with DeMarcado? What if Keontae Ingram does come back? That's something that you kind of have to watch. But, it looks like DeMarcado is going to be the lead back for now. But yeah, trying to sort through this over the next 4 weeks is going to be a little bit problematic, especially if DeMarcado does not produce. It's an okay matchup for him. It's not a terrible matchup this week for Arizona, right, against the Rams. It's not a strong defense at all. So you've got somebody there. I mean, it's just a matter of really is how long if you're fine for 1 week, that's great. But can he do it for like 3 weeks?
And that's always the concern. So you have to pay close attention or just stay away from the situation altogether if you have a better option. Miami Dolphins, you mentioned Devin Achan. He really messed us up. He made us all super insecure about saying his name, and like A-Chain was fine. I mean, we liked it. It flew off. And now every time I hear any of us try and say it, we like second guess it, but did not have him, though he was ganked from me, a pick before me in the Queen's Classic. He's going to miss multiple weeks with a knee injury, which he has been so productive for fantasy team managers that I think you're going to have to start paying attention to your lineup a bit more, because you're not going to get those kind of points from just one player possibly.
No, you're definitely not. You're definitely not. This situation kind of bums me out a little bit. I had a lot of
emotional.
Well, I had a lot of, it's 2 weeks in a row right now that I lost a running back in my main DFS lineups. right? Javonte Williams last week, 2 weeks ago. Now it was James Conner. So, I mean, it's not that I'm like gun shy about choosing a player. It's about the fact that, I could have made money at DFS last week. Instead, I broke dead even because my GPP lineups just, none of them hit, but my cash lineups won and covered those losses there. So it was just kind of like, because I always enter every, when I play, however much I put into a GPP, into GPP tournaments and lineups, I put that into cash games as well, because I have a lot of confidence in cashing in, like a 50-50. And then that kind of covers my, my costs. So still, you want to do more than just break even.
Yes, this is the world we're living in. At least you didn't lose. You should be happy about that. Colts coach Shane Steichen said the team is going to ramp up Jonathan Taylor's workload week 6 versus the Jags. Can I tell you a little sweet story? Did not take Zach Moss out of my lineup in the league Queens Classic where I have Jonathan Taylor. And again, that was just I'm in Italy. I'm thrown off by the time zone. I don't have great Wi-Fi. I got to say, when you're on the top of a mountain, in a town of 6,000 people, the spinning wheel is spinning a lot. Like you are waiting a lot. So I was like, if I tinker, is it going to save? You know what? Let it be. It's 1 week. Boy, was I glad to have in Zach Moss, because when I looked down at Jonathan Taylor's 4.6 points, I would not have been happy with that.
I actually had to use Zach Moss in the FSGA league this week. Because of dealing with like injuries and whatnot, and just not having anybody. I wasn't spending money all willy nilly on like guys like Jaleel McLaughlin, who we just didn't know about. And so rather than do that, I was like, you know what? Listen, they're gonna ease Jonathan Taylor back in. I might as well just get some points here with Zach Moss, and then.
That's where your fantasy football experience come. That's where everybody could be learning at the fantasyalarm.com as well, because that is a thought that you have. Are you easing this player? We hadn't seen Jonathan Taylor. We didn't know what he was going to be looking like. So that was a good play. It worked out for both of us. I see there are a lot of questions in the chat. We get back from the break. We're going to get to all of those. We'll continue to update everybody on the very, very, very important news that you all need to know, because we'll be setting lineups for a Thursday night game that I cannot wait to hear how excited you are to watch the Kansas City Chiefs just beat down on the Denver Broncos.
Oh, I'm pretty excited. I thought we were throwing a break at that point. I was like,
I had to ask you one more question.
I was like, that's a good tease. You know what? Listen, give me all the Isaiah Pacheco you can give me this week. Pacheco's, I mean, we just saw Breece Hall carve up this Denver defense. On the ground. I'm all in for it here. I love Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce, primetime game. Will we see Taylor Swift? That's got me on the edge of my seat as well, Lisa.
Will we see Travis Kelce? Has me on the edge of our seat, because if you recall, week 1, Thursday night, Kansas City plays. We don't have Travis Kelce, and now Travis Kelce is a bit banged up again, and I just don't think this game matters enough to throw him out there if he is not.
He was back at practice on Tuesday.
I know, but he's still questionable. Well, for all of you, what isn't questionable is that you should be getting the Fantasy Alarm All Pro subscription. Unlock all the content for sports, including annual draft guides, get one-on-one expert access in Discord, League Sync, analyze matchup and trends in your leagues, lineup generator integrated with Fanjections, daily and weekly rankings, value vault, position coaches, waiver wire, percentages, projections, stats, and tools. Build better lineups guaranteed. Get access to everything Fantasy Alarm offers all year. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Again, that's fantasyalarm.com/win. And we're going to help you all win in the chat. As soon as we get back for this break, you're listening to Lisa Ann Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm.
What can we expect from you out there on the track tonight?
Listen, I have a wife, 2 kids. I have, full-time jobs. I'm never nervous. I don't even know what that word means. Can you explain what nervous means? No. I'm ready to have fun. I've never done anything like this before. I got asked to be a part of this. this is fascinating. Like, it's so cool to just look around and see what goes on here. So I'm just excited to get out on the horse. And you want trash talk? Is that what you're asking me for? No trash talk. I hope everyone does well.
All right, everyone's going to do well, but it has to be a winner. So give me your trifecta. Who's going to come in first, second, and third? Your heat.
I will go Maria 1, me 2, Willie 3, Moose goes 4th.
Well, it's very simple. I won this event last year. I won my heat, and so the defending champ has to be the favorite. Now, that makes me a little nervous just because I feel like it's hard to repeat. There's a little pressure when you're the favorite, but that being said, I'm still optimistic.
So your heat, it's you,
Yes.
Moose and Keith from Better Sports Network, and Willie Colon.
I think Keith might be my stiffest competition, and I asked for this because I actually recruited Keith, if you didn't know. So Keith, if you win, you're welcome.
Malusis is very good. I mean, he knows what he's doing, but I'm going to go with Maria.
Keith is waving to the crowd. He must pay attention because they're off. It's Mark Malusis going for the lead. Maria Marino on the outside, and now Keith Irizarry on the outside with speed, and they're 3 wide into the first turn. Woo! Mark Malusis is locked in for his life. 138 and 2. They're into the stretch. Sportscasters Derby 2. And still in front, Keith Irizarry. And now Mark Malusis is trying to squeeze on through.
Come on! Come on! Let's go! Come on, kick it! Yeah!
Keith Irizarry. Keith, you did it all the way, wire to wire, over Mark Malusis.
Awesome! That was so cool!
The champ is here! Keith, what was it like being out there? Adrenaline rush, you were doing the Instagram Live, so there was no panic. You looked cool, calm, collected the whole time, and you won it.
I felt really comfortable. I did. Like, I know you were joking with me before. Are you nervous? Are you whatever? What are you? David, the driver, was awesome. He's like, we're going to win this. I said, all right, let's win this. And he said, let's go. Yeah, I just felt really comfortable. I did. It was fun. We're in the lead. I got Maria Marino on the right side of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to beat us, right? And then out of nowhere, you see Moose coming up this way, and we feel him breathing down our neck. And I'm like,
Moose
no,
on the loose. Watch
Moose.
out.
Moose was definitely on the loose, and we just got Moose by a neck, a nose, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but again, all of this for a great cause, and it was absolutely awesome to do this. It was cool.
All right, Keith, congratulations, and no matter what, you could always hold this over Moose's head.
Yeah!
We are back right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor. Myself, Lisa Ann, my co-host Howard Bender, streaming live on YouTube right here at Better Network as well as at Fantasy Alarm. Howard, I think it's time we help the people because, you know, this chat is robust and exciting, and I don't want to leave anybody behind. So I've scrolled back to get to our first important question of action. Are you ready for me to throw this to you?
You had me at robust.
Okay. So first and foremost, is Derrick Henry a buy low or do I stay the F away? Thank you, Leo. I like the F away. It's appropriate. Is Derrick Henry a buy low? We do know that Derrick Henry does like to heat up when it gets colder. We've seen this season after season. Or would you say stay the F away?
I mean, listen, I think if you're doing a traditional buy low and you're not giving up as much as you should be for Derrick Henry, I think you're fine. There are rumors that he's going to be traded before the NFL deadline, and that's in a couple of weeks. So I think he thrives more in a place that has a stronger offensive line, better passing game behind him so that he's not dealing with excessively stacking the box against him. So, I mean, I think if you don't have to give up too much for him, then I'm okay with that.
So what you're saying is Derrick Henry is going to have more value when he's on a better team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And if someone can get
hashtag analysis.
Yeah, hashtag analysis. And if someone were to get a value and just be able to not use him right away, if you know that you can sit with Derrick Henry and wait this out, I do think it's a good idea to buy low. Next question. Bronson says, trade Michael Thomas and brace yourself here, Howard, because this is going to be very personal to you. Trade Michael Thomas and Sutton for DK or Zay Flowers or Garrett Wilson or Terry McLaurin or Jacoby Myers. So packaging up those two, Bronson, I want to know, were you planning on only getting one of the others? Because DK would be the only value to me, or Terry McLaurin. I like Zay Flowers third. Garrett Wilson, we still worry about Zach Wilson. And Jacoby Myers, the only reliable thing is the law firm, not Jacoby Myers himself.
That is true. That is true. Michael Thomas and Cortland Sutton for DK Metcalf, I think, is a good deal. If you can get that, sure. Thomas and Sutton for any of these other guys is a little bit of an overpay. Even Garrett Wilson, who's an elite level wide receiver, he's just sitting with, not
an elite level quarterback.
Yeah. Right, exactly. But that's about it. I think 2 for 1 for any of the other guys is a little bit of an overpay. What you can do is maybe find out, maybe either Michael Thomas or Cortland Sutton, and upgrade somebody's tight end position, and then maybe you take like Zay Flowers or Garrett Wilson. But that's about it.
Hopefully that was helpful to you, Bronson. Our friend Jeff that's at Scrimp Daddy says, was DeMercado a good waiver wire pickup with Connor going down?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. I mean, I don't really think there's anything to really elaborate about it. He's probably going to share the workload at some point with Keontae Ingram, but DeMercado should be the lead back right now in Arizona. Yes, good pickup.
Okay, we've got one right here from Cross something. I want to ask a few questions. Would you trade Nico Collins for Derrick Henry? Achan is out and I need a running back. I don't use Collins because I have 3 good wide receivers.
Then it's a no-brainer. Absolutely. Of course you do that. If you don't have a decent, running back in there to throw in, and you're not using Collins, you might as well throw him in there for Henry. Absolutely.
Here we got another one from our friend Dylan. It's a trade. It's full PPR. By the way, it's so lovely when people give this kind of detail. It makes it so easy for us. Full PPR trade. Hopkins for Joe Mixon. My running back depth is Pollard, James Cook, Herbert injured, Spears. Wide receiver depth is Diggs, Ayuk, Hollywood, Michael Thomas, Hopkins, Tank Dell, and Josh Downs.
Yeah, Dylan, make this trade. Absolutely. If you can give up Hopkins and get full running back like Joe Mixon, I think it's definitely worthwhile. Mixon's averaging like 15 to 17 touches per game. Not a lot of running backs out there who get, even that kind of volume. That's not elite level volume, but it's still strong enough for that to happen. So yeah, I love this trade for you here. Grab Mixon.
And as we were worried about Travis Kelce, our friend Jeff would like you to know something I already knew, that Travis did get a visit from Taylor Swift for his birthday, the day after his birthday. So we're sure he's fine.
Oh, there you go. Well, happy birthday, Travis Kelce.
We're living in a rom-com simulation, and I really love it.
But I mean, well, so here's the funny thing, and I think you and I talked about this a little bit, right? I mean, this is all the social media world right now. This is the world in which we live, where everything that happens, and when you have an iconic superstar like Taylor Swift, everything's gonna blow up on top of that, because that's what we do as a society. We cling to the superstardom because, there's a little piece of us that always feels like we want that sort of life, that fame, that, oh my God, it's Taylor Swift. This is no different than when Joe DiMaggio married Marilyn Monroe. If we had that same social media, thing, if we had Facebook and TikTok and, and all these other, online sites, like everybody in the baseball world would have been like, oh my God, let's hear about Marilyn Monroe one more time. Right? I mean, so is it really that much different? Enjoy it. Embrace it. I hope it works out. I hope they have a couple of kids together.
Me
I
too.
hope that they celebrate. Yeah. I'm 100% in for this. And the people who are like, getting all pissy about it, please please, there's so much more stuff in the world to get pissy about. Worrying about Taylor Swift, infringing on your Sunday night football coverage is probably the least of your concerns.
I completely agree. Everyone should just stop drinking the haterade. That's all they're doing. We got a question here from our friend James. Question is, Van Jefferson worth more of a look now that he's an Atlanta Falcon, or should I be looking elsewhere on the waiver wire?
Elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Van Jefferson, listen, even you could say, well, he was never going to go beyond Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. Yeah, of course not. He wasn't. But now you're putting him on a team with a low volume passing offense. And I don't care that Desmond Ridder threw for 329 and a touchdown last week. He did it because everybody in San Francisco said to the media, they were like, well, we know we don't have to worry about them, throwing the football because all they do is run. And, and they basically said that Desmond Ridder wasn't a good passer. And so what happened was D'Amico Ryans had Desmond Ridder, Arthur Smith had him passing a significantly, greater amount. I don't think that lasts. Atlanta has to stick by the run. You got Drake London and Kyle Pitts who are fighting tooth and nail for any kind of targets, right? They're like little Oliver Twist being like, please, sir, I want some more. Right? That's what they are in Atlanta. Those are the pass catchers. So now you're gonna have Van Jefferson throwing in there. Please, that's just another derelict kid you just want to kick away.
Yeah, it's the Bijan Robinson show, no doubt. This was a unique situation last matchup, which of course made people feel there would be more offense in the air. But I'm with you on that one. And Van Jefferson had an opportunity to work with Matthew Stafford, who we know if he trusts you as a player, he's going to get you the ball. And obviously, I know this because I did draft Van Jefferson. Obviously, he doesn't trust you because you're not getting any targets. So there's a little bit of that. All right, Killer Quick says, with Achane on IR and Gibbs probably not playing, do I start Roshan Johnson if he clears, Jay McLaughlin or Antonio Gibson, or drop Downs or Tyler Boyd and pick up Tajay Spears?
No, I think I know that Javonte Williams was back at practice and we expect him to play. I think, if Roshan Johnson clears concussion protocol, that I think you're fine with him. I mean, I don't like the fact that McLaughlin plays on Thursday. And so you need Roshan to clear concussion protocol. Maybe I'd drop Boyd before I would drop Downs. We saw Downs end up with double-digit targets with Gardner Minshew under center. So Boyd, who, I love him as a wide receiver 3 in Cincinnati. Spears could protect you there. I wouldn't hate on that. I would actually, truth be told, I'd probably drop Gibson before I drop Boyd.
We got another one right here from another friend named Tyler. Well, first we'll go to Scott Powell, who wants to know if us guys, meaning me and you, think the Cowboys should let Dak Prescott go. I just don't understand the question because in the contract terms, I don't really think this isn't like, I'm working at Target. I'm not on time. I don't fold things properly. They should let me go. This is a little bit more complex than that, especially with the quarterback quandary that a lot of these teams are having just by using a backup, having another backup. Let's talk about the Cowboys facing the Chargers, who have Kellen Moore, who I think can game script out the Cowboys. And your thoughts on Dak Prescott's ability to be a better, more accurate, less interceptions kind of touchdown?
The problem with Dak Prescott, Dak used to be back in the day when Dak first got drafted and Dak was first there with the Dallas Cowboys. Things were looking great. Dak was a great cash game play in DFS. He had the rushing upside. Then he broke his ankle into like a million pieces, and he's never recovered from that. So he doesn't run as much as he used to because he's just not like that, and he's turned into more of a pocket passer. And it just doesn't agree with his style. The problem is that where are you going to go if you're Dallas? I know that you've got Trey Lance, but Trey Lance has not shown enough, even remotely in practices at all, to warrant that change. Do I think that they should move on from Dak Prescott? 100%. 100%, but you're not going to do it this year. No.
Yeah, moving on is something that needs to be thought out, planned out, done better. We do know that Dak has the receivers. I don't know if the lack of Zeke has made him feel less secure, but I would agree with you. When Dak first was out there, we knew we were going to get some rushing yards. That's completely declined, and his confidence seems to be a bit broken. Luckily for Dallas, the defense is good, but I'll tell you, nothing was worse than when I did get internet during a tour with an English-speaking tour guide on Sunday that I'm just watching turnovers pop into my phone. I was like, this is not what I want to hear from my Dallas Cowboys updates while I'm out on a tour in another country right now. Can you just stop that? Just turn off the updates. All right, one or two more here because we have some people now writing in all caps. And shit's going to hit the fan when it's all caps. This is important. Before we get to all caps, guy, we're going to go right here. James, don't worry about your grammar. It was perfectly fine. We figured it out. We got this one right here. Start Tua or Fields this week. Tua, Miami facing Carolina, Fields facing Minnesota.
I mean, how do you take Tua out of your lineup?
Boom. It's the greatest answer because
I
it's
love
right.
what Justin Fields is doing, but I mean, give me a reason to take Tua out of your lineup. What you need to do is you need to trade one of them. I don't care which one you trade. Get the max value out of the situation here. But having them both sitting on your roster in a 1 QB league is a colossal waste of time. Trade one of them. That's your best bet.
But should they wait? Should this team manager wait until bye weeks are kind of more settled, get through a bye week with one of these quarterbacks, and then put them out there for a trade? I'm the opposite school of thought as you, Howard. I always have 2 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league. Not only do I like playing the matchup, I like being confident during bye weeks, and I like not having to deal with the scrubs. I had injuries. I had one league where I had Derek Carr and Deshaun Watson. And so just trying to go out in the waiver wire, I'm looking at backup quarterbacks only. Like, what am I going to do with Mike White? Like, this isn't going to work for me. So it's been tough.
I mean, it kind of depends on, what you drafted. Like, if you drafted Justin Fields this year, you drafted him in like the 5th round, right? Like somewhere like that, you made that investment. Unless Tua fell to a significant, spot lower, then you're taking 2 QBs in a 1 QB league too soon. Like you don't need to make that strong of an investment. You could have gotten, a 10th round Russell Wilson, who would have been just fine for the bye weeks. Like, Geno Smith wasn't being drafted early. You could have drafted him. So when you grab 2 guys like Tua and Fields, I'm not saying you only have 1 QB on your roster, but if you've got a guy who you just want to, like a clear-cut start, how many times, Lisa, if you're sitting there with Tua and Fields and you start going back and forth and you start playing the matchups, how many times in a 6-game span, 6 fantasy week span, do you think you're going to end up making the wrong decision? And the guy on your bench is going to end up outproducing the first guy.
Look, I agree with you on that. And I agree with you on drafting 2 similar round value quarterbacks. For me, it was like you said, Geno Smith. Jared Goff was a great second quarterback. He was going really late. Matthew Stafford was dropped down on draft boards. So I looked at it like if I took a quarterback round 5 or round 6, which may have been Tua, may have been Justin Fields, I then didn't worry about a quarterback unless there was a crazy run around round 13. But there were a lot of really good quarterbacks, like Derek Carr. Like, bummer he got injured, but Derek Carr was easy to get, when you wanted just that backup. So though I am someone that drafts 2 quarterbacks, I do make sure that I'm drafting 1 quarterback that I truly believe in and one that I would use more in an injury situation or a bye week situation.
It's the whole yin yang philosophy that we have over at fantasyalarm.com. If you're going to take a Patrick Mahomes, then you don't need to worry about it until super late. If you are going for the mid-tier QBs, then you grab one guy who's got a safe floor, who's just, going to be your stable guy, and then one guy who's got that high upside. Maybe it was your Anthony Richardson or something like that. But to have Tua and Fields on your roster at this point in time right now, you're better off trading one of them to get better help at running back and wide receiver so that you don't have to keep playing the matchups and just grab see who's on waivers right now for QBs. If you've got like a Stafford sitting out there, or Geno Smith even, because people dropped him for the, his bye week, that's the guy that you end up as your second QB. You don't have these two high-end, high upside guys on your roster because, you're going to drive yourself nuts.
I completely agree with you. We're going to do 2 more questions. Then Howard and I are going to get right back to these news and notes so that you can properly set your lineups and start thinking about your decisions for tomorrow night's matchup. Thursday Night Football is around the corner. So the one that was in all caps, I think we should answer right now. This is from our friend Larry. Larry, shout out. So all caps does make me feel like you're yelling.
Oh, Larry, lower your voice, buddy.
Yes,
Here.
it's yelling. And also, people who have their font enlarged on their phone and then also do caps, really a problem. But he says, help a brother out. Do I trade Addison and Garrett Wilson for Mr. Keenan Allen? Keenan Allen already at 434 yards on the season and 2 touchdowns, having a season that I regret, having no shares of Keenan Allen and going all in on the youth of Mike Williams.
I too was a Mike Williams guy as well, and that is a sad, sad moment there. But I mean, listen, if this is like a 10-team league, right? Then yeah, I think that you can definitely do this. If this is like a 12 or a 14-team league and you're starting 3 wide receivers and a flex, then I don't necessarily know if I would do it, even with Addison dealing with an ankle injury. But if you're like in a 10-team league and you're just looking to consolidate so that way you can just have stud after stud after stud in your starting lineup, then yeah, make that move, because as much as I love Garrett Wilson, he's just not at that level right now with Zach Wilson.
And let me ask you this. Now, let's just say our friend Larry, all caps, does decide that he's going to make this move. Are you comfortable playing Keenan Allen this week, matching up against my tough Dallas Cowboys defense?
Yeah. Keenan Allen is another guy who I just leave in my lineup.
And you don't even worry about it.
Facing. I don't even care.
One more here, last one before we get back to news and notes. And don't forget, we're going to be doing our higher or lower at Underdog Fantasy. I put some polls out there on my timeline at The Real Lisa Ann. We need you to vote. We want to know your thoughts. This one's easy. Would y'all trade Tyreek and James Cook for Ken Walker and Kelsey? I found this interesting that James Cook is the only person that gets a full name. We even abbreviated Kenneth. I'm thinking T. Higgins, Kenneth Walker, and Kelsey for Tyreek and James Cook. I just can't let Tyreek Hill go.
Yeah, that's a tough one to let Tyreek go. It really is. But I mean, listen, if you're talking about upgrading to Kelsey, significant advantage. I mean, it depends on who you have at your tight end spot. But I think Kenneth Walker is a huge upgrade over James Cook. And I think T. Higgins is a respectable receiver. So I don't hate this trade. I probably don't want to trade Tyreek unless I'm like I said, earlier, if you're like 2-3 or 1-4 and the rest of your roster is struggling, then yeah, then I will make that trade. But if you're like 5-0 and 4-1, unless you're dealing with like major injuries, then giving up Tyreek and James Cook is not the way to go.
Let's get through a little refresh on some of these injuries. NFL Network's Bridget Condon reports that Austin Eckler has returned to practice. Do you feel good about putting him in your lineup if he's a full go this week, Howard? Because again, Austin Eckler is facing the Dallas Cowboys. Let's not forget.
Yeah, but didn't we see that you could run on the Dallas Cowboys? Didn't we see that?
I mean, 1 week you can, 1 week you can't. It's very up in the air. We don't know which Cowboys we get week after week. I feel like every week we win, the next week we have to lose. It's just the scales of justice.
Yeah, I know. But I saw Christian McCaffrey kind of beat you guys up, and then Jordan Mason was ripping off some pretty good chunk yardage plays as well later on in the game. Even James Conner against Dallas had himself a heck of an effort there as Dallas's other loss for that. So I would, Yeah, I mean, listen, if Austin Eckler's back and he's playing, it's without a doubt starting the lineup. You're not going to bench him. You're not going to keep him on the bench. It's not, yeah, nope.
Let's go to some wide receiver tight end news here, Howard. We already talked about Justin Jefferson going on the IR. He's going to miss at least 4 weeks. Steelers wide receiver Deontay Johnson tells reporters he feels completely great and healthy. I don't like these things. You get like this, like how many times have players told reporters like I feel great and they're not cleared to play?
Yeah, well, you never let a player diagnose himself, right? I mean, I don't know what medical school Deontay Johnson went to, but I'm willing to bet that he's excited to get back out there and he's willing to probably, bite down on a little bit of pain in order to kind of make that happen. But the Steelers aren't going to throw him out there unless he's 100% healthy. So if he's there, I'm definitely going to use him. I mean, obviously Steelers are on a bye this week, but the following week after that, I'll take Deontay Johnson. I'll put him right back into my starting lineup.
Do you remember the game Operation?
I do.
That was a fun game. Remember, that was a really fun game. Do you think that Deontay Johnson has played Operation and that's why he feels as if he can, give some like a medical update?
He was like, I got the bread basket. I'm psyched. Look at that. The bread basket. Oh, it's the spare rib.
We've got good news here for Amon-Ra St. Brown fantasy managers. He returned to practice yesterday with that abdomen injury. Exciting news.
That actually is really good, considering Wednesday is the day when most banged up veteran players take off from practice. So to see Amon-Ra back at practice here on a Wednesday is absolutely huge. If he can put in, limited to full practice, over the next 2 days as well, then you should be good to go with starting him this week. And I think Jared Goff will, kind of need him back.
The Giants are being hit all over the place with situations. It's not a good look. It doesn't look like it's going to be a great mid to end of the season, but Wan'Dale Robinson did not practice on Wednesday. Where do you think a player's motivation is to put themselves out there not being 100% when the team almost feels like it's tanking the rest of the season?
Well, I mean, if you're a true competitor, then you got to go out there every single day. You got to give it everything you got. Listen, there's, trying to think of a good way to equate it, but I mean, it's about your work ethic. It's about your tenacity, your level of competition. That even if you're, if your team is losing, you want them to win. You don't want to be, stuck on a loser. Like JJ Watt was stuck on these losing Houston Texans teams. Did you ever think that JJ Watt was kind of, pulling back or not giving everything that he had? So, I think even with, a team like the Giants who things just don't look good, I would like to think that Wan'Dale Robinson has at least enough of a competitive edge that he would just say, well, I gotta do everything that I can to help my team here.
Keeping it with the New York Giants, tight end Darren Waller has a groin injury, but said he expects to play on Sunday against the Bills.
So sad and depressing, right? You got this beautiful, beautiful, talented man in Darren Waller. It was so great his first year back. He had kicked the substance abuse issue. He came back for the Raiders. He was amazing for them. And then all of a sudden injuries just started to take their toll. And you knew that was happening. I'd like to see him back, but yeah, that's a huge bummer. Huge bummer.
It is a huge bummer, but Daniel Jones is not the quarterback that's going to bring out the best in Darren Waller. I pretty much feel like he could go absolutely anywhere. Bills did place tight end Dalton Kincaid in concussion protocol, so it could be a Dawson Knox day for the Buffalo Bills. We'll keep touching on all these, but the most important thing is everyone get ready because Underdog Fantasy, we're going to go through our higher or lowers, which you can go over there during this break and you can cast your votes because we're going to use those to balance out the scales. I see your questions coming in. We will get there. By the way, Better Boss says, we still play Operation with the kids, and it was terrifying when that red nose buzzer goes off. Yeah.
I would like to see the Better Boss playing playing operation. I think he's got that. He's a high energy guy. I don't necessarily know how steady that hand is when he's when you're what is it the wrench in the knee? You gotta like take the wrench out there. Come on.
Does seem like an odd tool to use in a sterile environment, but that's what we were working with back then. What we're working with you while we're on break, I want you to think about a higher or lower for our friend who we mentioned earlier. That's Gardner Minshew. And will Gardner Minshew be throwing for more than 216.5 yards? We'll get to that and more after the break. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm.
Oh boy, we got a big one. We got a big card here. We got
baby, let's go.
We got a super rookie.
Ooh.
Do you guys want to guess who the big card super rookie is? Because
I'm going to guess somebody from the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't recall who were rookies in those particular years. So I'm going to guess Michael Irvin.
Adam?
Jared kind of convinced me to go Troy Aikman there.
I'm going to read the description. In this player's NFL debut, September 10th, 1989, he produced an electrifying 68-yard punt return for a touchdown.
Sanders.
He became the first athlete in the 20th century to hit a home run, September 5th, 1989, for the Yankees at Seattle, and score a touchdown in the same week.
That needs a sleeve. That one needs a sleeve.
Top
100%.
super rookie, neon, prime time, Deion Sanders.
I wasn't that far off. He played for the Cowboys.
I was going to say Deion, and then when you said the early 90s Cowboys, I'm like, Aikman would be a good guess. So I go with your gut is the lesson there.
And there it is, the white and red Falcon jerseys that you said Deion came in with before they changed to black.
That was because the starting lineup for Deion his rookie year has got the red helmet with the white jersey.
Now look at that do. I mean, are you kidding me with that hair?
I mean, you got to have a headband with those curls. You got to.
That is sick. And this is a favorite card. Do we have any value on this card? We have to, right?
Let's see.
Give me a value here.
Let's see here on eBay. PSA 10 gem mint Deion Sanders, $149.99. And then a 9.5 is $6. So that guy might be a little bit. Then there's a much more reasonably listed one at $31 for a PSA 10. So it's got some value to it. Yeah, you might want to protect that one.
It's in excellent condition. I guess we have to worry about, is it centered?
Yes, that would be the next thing.
All right, well, we'll go through the process there. Maybe I'll just frame that one as a great moment in this show's history.
We are back with you right here, and I want to make sure that you go and you follow at RotoBuzzGuy. You are following at Fantasy Alarm because, why would you not be? And you're going to follow at Underdog Fantasy. What we're going to do right now is we're going to play some higher or lower. If you play Pick'em on Underdog Fantasy by choosing higher or lower on 2 to 5 of your favorite players' stats, choose from MLB, Still happening. I can't believe the Orioles were told to me here last week they were going to win. I think they're out now. I heard that today. They got swept like a broom. MLB, NFL, PGA, and more sports. 3 correct picks equals 6-time entry fee. 4 correct picks, 10-time entry fee. 5 correct picks equals 20 times. All you need to do is sign up at fantasyalarm.com/underdog with the promo code ALARM. First-time depositors get a 100% match up to $500. So, Howard, I've got our votes here. How are you feeling about your picks? And let's talk about how we feel about them in order, because I number them so I stay organized here.
I feel great about my picks. I feel great about Underdog extending this $500 deposit match also. That's big. They did that. They ran that as a special last week, and they hit us up and they were like, you know what? This was really good. Let's do this again. Let's run it back this week. So yeah, fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Use that promo code ALARM and you get that match up to $500. That's huge. Huge.
So the first one we have right here, huge, is Gardner Minshew, 216.5 passing yards. We have 138 votes right now. Before I read the totals, What do you have, Howard? Because I know you're not feeling the Gardner Minshew love, but 216.5 ain't that high. Are you going higher or lower with our Indy Colt quarterback that is not Anthony Richardson? It is Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, I just don't know if he's going to sling the rock as much. I mean, having Jonathan Taylor back, having Zach Moss just in there as well. It's a tough number. I mean, it is a very, very low number for an NFL quarterback. I would probably take the higher end on this one just because it is so low. And, maybe it's low because they've got, little Anthony Richardson still attached to Indianapolis with their algorithm. So I'll say higher.
I am going to say higher as well because I look at this. I love that. I look at this matchup against Jacksonville and think there could be some points put up there. So I'm going to go higher. Let me tell you how our Xers did, because we can't call them tweeters anymore. They're our Xers, right?
Sure.
Okay, 70.3% said higher. 29.7% said lower. Gardner Minshew getting more love right here on my timeline right now than he has in a long time. He should look at this. Next one. Good for Gardner. We have 125 votes on this next one. We got Brian Robinson Jr., 59.5 rushing yards. Looking at this matchup right here, we've got Washington facing Atlanta. What do you have for this one right here before I tell you our voters?
59.5. It's again, that's also not a big number. He hasn't hit it in the last two games. But I mean, one was against Philly, and then the other game against Chicago, there was just, he just got game flowed out. I'm going to go higher for Brian Robinson Jr. this week against Atlanta. It's a good defense they're going up against, but I just feel like, even against good defenses, he was still able to do pretty well. Right, 70 yards against Buffalo. So I think he's probably going to go higher here.
Our listeners, our Xers, 63.2 said higher, 36.8 said lower. I am going with the higher on this one as well.
Nice. Pause for the sound effects.
Yeah, because we wanted it. It's so cute, All right. That was number 3 for me. Number 4 for me. Then I go into yours. We've got Stephon Diggs, 89.5 receiving yards, 132 votes. We've got the Bills taking on the New York Football Giants that are so bad. Where are you going with this one?
I mean, how do you not go higher? I mean, I think that he could surpass this in the first half alone. I think we'll see a lot of Stephon Diggs for 3 quarters, and then the end of the game, it'll end up, going back over there. So I'm going to say higher. I think he can hit that century mark this week.
I agree with you as well. Our listeners, our Xers, 75.8% said higher and 24.2% said lower. I'm going with the higher too, and thank you for a great fourth quarter for Gabe Davis. Next up here again, these are all at Underdog Fantasy. Don't forget to go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog fantasy. Is it Underdog or Underdog Fantasy? That's a great question. It is just Underdog. fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Use code ALARM. We got yours. And Cortland Sutton's been a point of our conversation since we were on air back in August talking about how we felt about. You've got him for this one. Cortland Sutton, 3.5 receptions. That is tomorrow night's game up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who the defense has started to really show life this season. We've got 129 votes before I reveal what's your say on our guy, Cortland Sutton, Howard Bender.
This is easily a higher one for me. I think Cortland Sutton, I mean, he's leading the team in targets. Last week was a terrible matchup. We knew it was a terrible matchup. It was going to be Sauce Gardner on Sutton the majority of the time. L'Jarius Sneed is not Sauce Gardner. And this Joe Lombardi offense, it funnels targets to the X receiver. That is Cortland Sutton. So 3.5 receptions, higher.
And we had 62% here that said higher, 38% said lower. I'm with you. I'm going higher on the 3.5 receptions for Cortland Sutton on Underdog. Brian Burns with the timing on that one. Well done. All right, we got one more here. Geno Smith. Boy, this has been quite a story. 253.5 passing yards. We've got 127 votes, and this is the closest one out of the polls that I've run so far. What you say on this matchup as Seattle will be facing Cincinnati?
The Bengals in Cincinnati. I'm leaning on the higher in this one here as well. I do think that the game flow situation that we're going to be looking at is, I think Seattle's going to come running the football hard at Cincinnati. Cincinnati gives up the second most rushing yards per game this season. They've also allowed 7 rushing touchdowns. You know, Pete Carroll loves running the football as much as he loves chomping on that gum. And so Shane Waldron has, as the coordinator, obviously capitulates to Carroll in that fashion. So I think we see a lot of Kenneth Walker early in this game. And then in the second half, in the third quarter, when Swaggy Joe starts to take over and he starts slinging that rock, and all of a sudden Cincinnati is really putting the pressure on Seattle, then I think Geno starts to throw the ball as well. And so 253.5 against this Cincinnati defense, which is not a strong defense at all, like revamped secondary. It hasn't been working for them at all. So higher for me for Geno.
I'll tell you what, this is the first one that we've gone the opposite here. We've got 48.8% on higher, 51.2% on lower for Geno Smith at 253.5 passing yards. I'm with you on this one as well, but I think it's interesting to see no one still believes in Geno Smith. Everyone's looking at Cincy as the stronger team here, but I just love the consistency of the weapons that Geno Smith has to work with between DK, Tyler, Kenneth Walker. So I'm going to go higher with you as well.
And just remember, Lisa Ann, that all those beautiful hotels in Vegas were built on the public being wrong.
Very true. It's very, very, very true. Let's get to some of these questions in here so we can stay on topic. We've got so many great questions and so much coming in. If you have a start sit question, throw it here. We've got Nico Collins or Jacoby Myers. Who would you start this week in this situation, Howard Bender?
I think I would lean on, if it's full point PPR, I feel like I'm going to lean on Jacoby Myers in this one here. Raiders are playing the Patriots. Patriots defense has just gone to crap with the loss of Matthew Judon, the loss of Christian Gonzalez. Houston's in a good spot here against the Saints, but are they? You're going to have Nico Collins dealing with Marshawn Lattimore the entire time. Why not just buy into the revenge game narrative of Jacoby Myers? Higher.
Why not? Why not? Okay, James has a second question. I have 3 players on my bench to put in my flex spot in my standard Yahoo league. James Dalvin Cook, Isaiah Pacheco, or Zay Flowers. He needs one.
Oh.
You love Pacheco this week.
I do love Pacheco this week. I love Zay Flowers in general. I love Zay Flowers against Tennessee. I don't love Zay Flowers against Tennessee in London. I don't want to have to rely on that and talk about jet lag or anything, in there. Denver's run defense is terrible. All right, they're giving up the most yards. The Bengals are giving up the second most yards. The Broncos are giving up the most yards per game on the ground. They've given up a ton of rushing touchdowns. I think Pacheco is going to be the guy that you're going to want in your lineup.
I like it, and I also like the fact that the DFS challenge is out there. I think we should look over who had the winning lineup, but we're also going to talk a bit about who you see as chalk this week. Now, these are answers you all could get if you were signed up at Fantasy Alarm. these articles that Howard and the team puts out. You got the brilliant minds over there of so many great fantasy sports betting contributors. Who do you got on your watch list top DraftKings pick, or also FanDuel? So you guys know, if you're playing DFS on different platforms, we're running the challenge on DraftKings, mainly because DraftKings opens it up to 200 players, and it just makes it that much more awesome. But let's talk about your watch list, and I'm going to pull up the winning lineup from last week.
Yeah, I want to see the winning lineup from last week also. I finished 83rd in our contest, which not great there, but I'm looking at the winning lineup right now. Do you want me to read it, or you want to read it?
Feel free. I mean, it's completely up to you.
No, I'm gonna leave it to you. I'll talk about the watch list. So
okay,
here you go,
talk
people.
The watch list. I'll go through our last one. Go for it.
All right. So, folks, if you are new to Fantasy Alarm and you are new to the DFS watch list, this is what happens. Like, once the week closes out with Monday Night Football, Tuesday morning, I wake up and I immediately start breaking down the matchups coming up for the following week, because I want to find out, who has the most favorable matchups, not just on paper, but, also if you've read the Fantasy Alarm draft guide and the coaching systems, what quarterbacks do better against defenses that use zone coverage versus man coverage, and all those things available to you over at fantasyalarm.com. So then I jump in and I do the watch list. And that's just, an initial look right now of the slate. 5 QBs I like, 5 running backs, 10 wide receivers, 5 tight ends. We'll sort out the defenses later on in the week, because we always see what kind of value opens up. But, right now, I mean, there are definitely some great situations that you want to latch onto. I love the Cincinnati-Seattle game. I love Joe Burrow. I love Geno Smith in there. I love Kenneth Walker. I love Jamar Chase. I love Tyler Lockett. I love DK Metcalf. So, that's a game that we're definitely going to stay, stay locked in. Miami going up against, Carolina. Give me all the Raheem Mostert you can possibly give me. Even if Jeff Wilson goes in there and poaches a touchdown or two, this is such a great matchup for Raheem Mostert that, I've been targeting against Carolina's run defense the entire time. And then I think, this Rams offense, Lisa Ann, I mean, how great is this Rams? Like Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, they're all fun to say. They're all super fast. They all have great hands. Matthew Stafford just pip. He's peppering them completely. And then you've got a great matchup here against Arizona, which isn't, not a great defense. And then on Arizona's side against the not such a great Rams defense, you've got, Marquise Hollywood Brown as a possibility. So, Zach Ertz is one of the top targeted tight ends. He's the number 3 tight end in targets this season right now. So that's kind of where the watch list is at. That's where you've got it over there. If you don't subscribe, fantasyalarm.com/win. That's where you want to subscribe. I'm telling you, testimonials in the Fantasy Alarm Discord on the regular, lineups that have been built off of the just the playbook alone. Just the playbook alone have been in the 200s on both sites. So there it is. That's my that's my spiel. That's my pitch.
Well, you finished in the top 100. Better Boss just let us know he finished 130th. But let's not fret, Better Boss, because remember, a couple of weeks ago, you finished in the top 10. So that happens. I was unable to access DraftKings in Italy. Plot twist. Not really allowed there. So we won't even count my lineup. Let's talk about the winning lineup with 212.3 points. Started out with Joe Burrow, giving him 27.8. Raheem Mostert, 15.8. Devin Achane, 25.5. Jamar Chase, 55.2. Adam Thielen, 30.7. Tyreek Hill, 35.1. He played a player in the tight end position, Devin Smythe, that gave him a 0. Jalen Smith, 11.7, and the Dolphins defense with 11 points. A nice lineup in a tricky setup with quite a few flames and not very many snowflakes.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at what he targeted. The Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase pairing, that's, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I had I had Jamar Chase everywhere in the playbook and was, touting him for that. This was like the Miami stack is really what you're looking at here. Using both running backs against a super weak run defense is a good solid move here, especially if you're in a 200 person contest. You want to build more, more of a cash game with a cash game mentality, that you're looking for that higher floor than you really are the ceiling. So, in a case like this, knowing the ground game, yes, I think you could have been very content to start Mostert and Achane as well. Thielen was a great play. Tyreek, again, that's part of the Miami stack. Durham Smythe, part of that Miami stack. He didn't do anything. The one snowflake there. Jonnu Smith, the secondary tight end for the Falcons behind, Kyle Pitts. A risky play, but I mean, again, super cheap on the salary. So, to get Chase, to be able to get, the running backs in there, to get Burrow and Chase and Tyreek Hill, you got to find a place to pay down. And if that means going with a second tight end in your flex, if he's getting targets, I mean, imagine this. Imagine what you did if you did something with the 3,000 there. If that 3,000 was in your flex spot and you use that on, let's say, Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, not a great game for him. He left early, but I still think he got like somewhere between 4 to 6 points. So, your 212.38 would have been, is fantastic. Could have been 216.
Could have been, and that is always the play, right? Trying to find where you're going to get your value to have that balance, but it's always incredible when somebody can get Jamar Chase and Tyreek Hill into a lineup and still build anything that even counts. Yeah. I mean, they are getting more and more expensive as the weeks go on. Zach Ertz is still a player. You mentioned leading the team in targets, still out there at a decent price on DFS. I'm sure it's going to start climbing, but Zach Ertz, the forgotten tight end, really thought he was falling off. He was a bit banged up at camp, not really heavily drafted. And I saw him out on the waiver wire in a couple of leagues while I was scouring around last night. So I think he's worth picking up. You mentioned Jonnu Smith. Another player that I really wanted to pop off, just don't think he's landed in the right situation to be his best self.
I'm with you.
You're with me? Let's talk about some spreads and totals, because how do we feel about tomorrow night? Weren't we going to flex games so we got better games on these standalones? What happened to that?
I don't know. I mean, are we too early to flex a game? I don't know. I mean, listen, Monday night is like the premier game. I don't even know which is the Sunday night game this week.
Sunday night game is the New York Giants playing the Buffalo Bills. Bills at home. Poor Giants. And the Monday night game is the Dallas Cowboys
against the Chargers. That's the marquee game, and that's what you want there. I mean, Chiefs Broncos, it's still an AFC West battle that you have there. So I don't hate that. I don't hate it.
But I don't see it being a very competitive game. I do hope that the Chiefs just keep going, just keep putting up points, just keep hitting stats. But these breakaway games are reminding me a bit of like the NBA, how, next thing you know, you're down by 20 and then nothing matters every, and it just gets lame. It's great for fantasy and it's not, because you're competing against a player that's putting up 4 touchdowns and you face that on Thursday night, kind of ruins your whole week.
Yeah, well, that's I think we just had, Jim and I just had like a long discussion about that, about like when your Thursday night player doesn't hit and then you have to like spend the next couple of days looking at that, like that 0 or that 2.3 or whatever it is. But on the other hand, when you have a guy like, I remember when David Montgomery on Thursday night popped, you're just like, yeah, 37.5 points right there. Thursday night football. I'm in the lead. You had to see Jim with, because it happened, he and I were playing in the military appreciation draft that we did. And he had DJ Moore going, right, against me. So DJ Moore went bonkers, 40-plus points. That was Thursday. And then after the Sunday game, he had Josh Allen, Travis Etienne, I think he also had Dalton Kincaid, who didn't score any points, but Allen went off, ETN went off, and he like screenshotted me a picture with after the 2 games have played, he was up like 104-0.
Oh.
And you know what Jim's like when he's got that kind of a lead.
I mean, I don't even want to look at my lineup at that point. I don't even want to look at it. You already faced that. I already accepted it. I'm just moving on to the next week. But
you know, the funny thing, I finished in that league. I thought like legit I had a chance. But like CeeDee Lamb was like a turd burger, and as was the whole Dallas offense there. And so I didn't get that chance, but I scored the second most points in the league that week.
Okay.
So I would have beaten everybody else except for Jim. So I take some solace in that.
I mean, Howard, didn't you teach me something about hope many years ago?
Oh, yes,
hope.
indeed. I did. Well, a little lesson my great granddaddy always used to tell me, right? You can wish in one hand, hope in one hand, and shit in the other. See which one fills up first.
Hey, everybody, an old man's talking.
Brian Burns.
Brian Burns. Where's your mom tonight, Brian Burns? Did you not in the chat? Remember, she joined us last week. Speak for yourself, Brian, because we would like her here. We would like to give her personal invites because we loved it when she was in here because she was kind of giving him a hard time.
Yes.
And with the almighty crickets, we got to get to some spreads and totals. We are going to also answer your questions, Better Boss says, or when you look at Fields and Moore in your lineup on a huge Thursday night, but then you still lose.
Oh, well, that's just being a mush.
Yeah, that's just not great. We're going to talk about these point spreads that you don't want to miss. We get back. Before, I want to remind you all to get the Fantasy Alarm All Pro subscription, unlock all the content for sports, including annual draft guides, get one-on-one expert access in Discord, weekly waiver wire percentages, projections, stats, and tools, build better lineups, guaranteed. Get access to everything Fantasy Alarm offers all year long. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win. We'll be back with you. If you have any last minute lineup questions, you got 30 more minutes to ask them. Throw them in all caps if you think it's more important than other people's. We'll definitely get to them. And we're going to get to some team totals, some spreads, and some games that we want to bet this weekend. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on Better Network and Fantasy Alarm.
The Bears have to be one of the most inept franchises of any sport I've ever seen in my entire life. And they share the city with the White Sox, who are also inept. Like, that is how bad the Bears are. I just don't understand how you can go your entire existence and the quarterback that wins you a Super Bowl is Jim McMahon. You couldn't find anybody else.
They don't have a good history with quarterbacks, and they let him be the quarterback for a long time, too.
Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes right there.
Mm-hmm.
And you drafted Mitch Trubisky. They were right there. I there's a lot of pain in being a Falcons fan. The Bears are one of the teams I could argue they might have it worse, and they have a Super Bowl.
And
when the best quarterback in the past 50 years is Jay Cutler, you have a problem.
That's so funny that you just said that. We were talking about Jay Cutler the other day, me and my friend, and I was like, yeah, he was on, because we were watching the Colorado Rockies game against the Giants, and it looked like he was behind the thing. I was, yeah, well, he played for Denver most of his career. We looked it up. Chicago let him be their starting quarterback way too long.
Here's the thing, too, is that Jay Cutler wasn't bad. Like, he was erratic. He wasn't terrible, though.
The poor man's Brett Favre.
I'm taking him over Justin Fields. I'm sorry.
I would.
But
yeah.
Jay Cutler led that team to an NFC title game.
Yeah.
That they lost to Green Bay. But he's gotten farther than anybody else. You want to know who the other starting quarterback was for the Bears in the other Super Bowl appearance they made? It was Rex Grossman. What are we doing out here? It was Rex Grossman, and Kyle Orton was the backup. How are you that bad? Bro, like, oh my God. Listen to the top 5. According to Football Reference, the top 5 greatest Bears quarterbacks of all time. Jay Cutler, number 1.
I can't believe it.
Sid Luckman, who last played in 1950, is number 2. Jim Harbaugh is number 3. Jim McMahon, the Super Bowl winner, is number 4, and he played there for 6 years. And Mitch Trubisky,
no way,
is number 5 on the list as terms of passing yards go.
We are back right here. DJ Brian Burns producing the show tonight and spinning the tunes. Me and Howard Bender right here with you. You've got 30 minutes to get your questions in. We are going to go to some point spreads to watch, biggest point spread for survivor pool picks and highest game totals. But Byron had a question that I kind of want answered because I don't know what I'm doing here right now. Okay. Are there any updates on Komet?
Are there any updates on him? I can check. while I'm looking for that. Lisa,
I'll tell you why.
You know what a DJ's favorite sauce is?
Which DJ?
Any DJ. Favorite sauce.
This is going to be a great joke. I'm ready for it. No, Howard, I don't really know what DJ's favorite sauce is.
Marinara. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was so bad. It was good. I liked it a lot. I'm going to use it. It's a good one. The reason I asked for Byron and myself is like Cole Kmet had a big week. I think it was 2-3 weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after that big week, I'm afraid to chase points. So I sit him on my bench. He has kind of another decent week. And now I'm super afraid to play him because I'm like, that was probably it. He was a much better best ball player because I didn't have to think about him every week. And now I'm facing him and I'm almost like just waiting to get through bye weeks or haven't had a tight end injury. And I'm going back and forth between Dawson Knox, Tyler Higbee, Cole Kmet, just the trash of tight ends.
Well, I mean, he put in a limited practice on Wednesdays dealing with a hamstring injury. So that's something that you're obviously going to have to pay attention to. He's going up against Minnesota this week, and Minnesota is actually a pretty decent team as far as covering the tight end goes. They did give up a lot of work to Travis Kelce, but
that's Travis Kelce.
Again, that's Travis Kelce. So, the fact that, you saw Kelce targeted 11 times and he caught 10 passes is a different story than Cole Kmet. But for that same token, if Cole Kmet's playing, I feel like you have to play him right now. With the way things are going, the offense is clicking. He's a big, wide-bodied target inside the end zone. So that's what you're really looking for when you got a guy like Cole Kmet, who you probably didn't pay a lot for in the draft with draft capital. And you probably weren't expecting huge numbers from him. But when he's on a run like this and Justin Fields is kind of cooking right now, you want to be able to stay involved there. So, despite not the great matchup, if Cole Kmet is out there, I'm still playing him.
So Byron, as a friend, I'd like us to both pinky swear right now that we're going to play Cole Kmet and talk about this later. So let's pinky swear on that. We're going to put him in our lineups. We've got Parker here. Congratulations to starting out your season 5-0. The question is, do I trade Justin Jefferson, which is something you brought up earlier. You said if you are in one of these situations where you're 5-0, this is the perfect time for you to trade away or
bring
him on.
No,
you
acquire. If you're 5-0, you can withstand the loss of Justin Jefferson, right? Again, the goal is not to go undefeated for the season. The goal is just to make your playoffs,
right?
And to have the strongest team possible once those playoffs start up. So you can withstand the loss of Justin Jefferson right now. You don't have to, I wouldn't make that move at all. I would, for me, I would be sitting on that and just say, all right, I'm going to tuck him away here. Grab somebody like, grab somebody off of the waiver wire and just, or you should have decent players sitting on your bench at this point, right? I mean, you shouldn't be just completely bereft of talent. So no, I wouldn't trade Justin Jefferson because you're going to want him come playoff time.
And hopefully, Parker, you have an IR spot in your league, so you'll be able to pick up a player without having to drop somebody that's gotten you there to your 5-0 start. But again, congratulations there. David's question is opinion on Chicago's backfield, Herbert, Roschon, and Foreman.
Well, Khalil Herbert's going to be out. They said it was a multi-week injury, so I wouldn't expect he's not going to play this week. I doubt he's going to play the week after that. I think Deonta Foreman is going to be the lead back. Listen, they gave this dude $3 million, right? It was like a 2-year contract for $6 million that they gave Deonta Foreman. And, they haven't used him. Khalil Herbert's been the main guy, but, Roschon Johnson's dealing with concussion protocol. He hasn't been cleared yet. So it's going to be Deonta Foreman for right now. If Roschon does get cleared, I'd be interested in him in a PPR format because that's his role. He's the pass catching running back. But yeah, I mean, right now the lean is on Deonta Foreman.
Let's talk about these point spreads to watch. Thursday night's game is the first one up here. You got Chiefs minus 10.5 versus Denver. How you feeling about that one, Howard?
I mean, everybody says you don't want to take the Chiefs when they're such a heavy favorite at home. They never cover. And I feel like that is definitely in the play here. Again, we don't love Denver's offense, and Denver's defense is going to, really needs to try and clamp down and contain the Chiefs. But 10.5 is still a lot of points to give. So I'm probably leaning Denver here, but I don't, I'm not glued to that yet. We'll see.
We still have a whole day. Right? We still have a whole day. Anything can happen. Titans plus 3.5 versus Baltimore.
Yeah, this one, it's in London and everybody, Mike Vrabel is always so good as an underdog. And it's even though it's a home game for Tennessee, it's still considered more like a road game. Baltimore, their offense needs to show us something, right? We needed to see something with this Todd Monken air raid offense. They just got back Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham last week, and Bateman can't hold on to the football, and Odell couldn't make it through an entire game. So I kind of worry about what we've got going on here with the Ravens. I'll take the Titans plus the 3.5.
You mentioned earlier Derrick Henry potentially getting trade off topic from points totals. I would ask you, Howard Bender, where do you think is the perfect landing spot for Derrick Henry if he does finally get traded from the Tennessee Titans?
Baltimore. Like, give him to Baltimore, right? So we don't have to worry about Gus Edwards or Justice Hill. And we know J.K. Dobbins is out the entire time. Like, it's a good offensive line, right? Like, and he's going to see, strong volume. You need to adjust something. Todd Monken needs to adjust something. Because their whole game plan got blown up real super early when all the receivers were hurt and they lost J.K. Dobbins. So I feel like you need to stabilize this offense with a running back. I think Derrick Henry would be a good fit here.
Wendy just joined the room. Hey, LA and Howard. Wendy, we love when you pop by and say hello. We all know that Wendy really truly loves Bob Harris. So we know that she's here. We're kind of like a second act, but we love you too, Wendy. It's always great to see you stop by and say hello.
I'm second fiddle to Bob Harris. I bought Wendy breakfast at the expo and I'm second to Bob Harris. That's just hurtful.
After that DJ joke, I don't think you could be second to anyone,
I'm
Howard.
just kidding.
So
You
don't
said
worry.
Wendy hooked me up. Wendy hooked me up. So she in one of the chats, she was like, I've got this John Elway jersey and I don't want to wear it. I don't want it at all. Does anybody want it? I'm like, fuck it, right? It's a John Elway jersey. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna frame it. I'm gonna be all psyched. Not only did she give me the jersey, right? But then sitting there underneath the jersey, I opened up this little box and it's like this old Broncos John Elway commemorative plate autographed by John Elway. And she just gave it to me. I was like, and I hit her up immediately. I was like, well, first and foremost, thank you so much for the jersey. Wonderful person. I love you so much. I don't know if you noticed, but in the box, there was like a place. She was like, did you read the card? I was like, yes, I read the card. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. She was like, did you turn it over? Oh, it says the plate here is a bonus. Thank you so much.
Wendy, you're amazing. And Angie is in the room and said, wait, Bob Harris's bestie is here, which we all know is Wendy. So great to see you both in here. Let's go to the next one here. We're talking about point spreads to watch. 49ers -5 at Cleveland. Cleveland will be without Deshaun Watson, correct?
Cleveland will be without Deshaun Watson. This line moved up to 7 now with the word that PJ Walker was going to be under center. I here's the funny thing though. San Francisco is a much better team right now than Cleveland. Cleveland's offense is terrible. Are we so sure that Cleveland's defense is going to be so good that they're going to hold the 49ers in check? That this game total is super low, that this spread is low. Because I mean, if I feel like this spread would be, 49ers by more than that, 8.5 maybe. So to see it only at 7 right now, it makes me wonder, makes me like, is Vegas being like, oh, everybody's going to take the 49ers right now? Because of course they can beat the Browns by 7 points. So I'm a little concerned about that right now. If I had to lean, I'll lean on the 49ers because I think even as good as that Cleveland defense is, if your team, is just, your offense is just 3 and out, then the defense gets tired. They get tired fast. They get aggravated.
Yeah.
And you see that with the Carolina defense right now. Their offense is just so cockapoo that, the defense is like just sitting there being like, Jesus, don't we get a break here for crying out loud?
And that is an official sports reference when we say cockapoo on the show. That has true meaning.
It's an industry term.
It's an industry term. Insiders only. Vikings -2.5 at Chicago.
Yeah. How are the Vikings at 1-4 and looking like the way they're looking? How are they a road favorite against the Bears? I don't understand this line at all. I really don't. I mean, they played the Chiefs tough. Okay, but literally, I don't understand this at all, which makes me want to take the Vikings now, only because everybody's in on the Bears.
Yep.
Everybody's like, it's Justin Fields. He's great. DJ Moore. He's great. This is a suspicious spread for me. I might take the Vikings as a road favorite.
As we say it today, it's sus.
It is a little sus. It is a little sus.
Because everything needs to be abbreviated, right?
You gotta keep me up to date on the lingo here. I don't know these things.
Like I say obs a lot instead of obvious. Obs has become a new thing, OB, because that's, we
Obs,
speak in such short terms on social media. Everything's abbreviated. Somebody says, how are you? They don't say, how are you anymore. They send you HRU. So, now it's sus, obs, instead of obvious.
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that phrase.
It's interesting about Justin Fields getting all this play. DJ Moore was great last week. That was an awesome way to start our fantasy football matchups for the weekend, no doubt. But the talk 3 weeks ago was so different. And when we cover fantasy sports and we're following these teams, we see the ebbs and the flows, the bats. I almost wish we could just pull clips from all of our topics 3 and 4 weeks ago, because Justin Fields was trash. And everyone was talking about, why is he still out there? Justin Fields is trash, Okay, now Justin Fields is getting his shit together, and now everyone is overinflating Justin Fields. And I'm still like, okay, if we're sitting here at week six and we have 4 weeks of one opinion and 2 weeks of another, can we let things balance out until we make this permanent decision that somebody is of greatness or not of greatness? Do you agree with that?
It's amazing how to the extreme fantasy football people go. Like, fire Luke Getsy, bench Justin Fields, trade Justin Fields, and now, 2 weeks later, he's like the bee's knees. He's, everything that you want in a fantasy quarterback. He's the Konami cheat code, as the kids say. Also, so there you go.
Jeff did raise a good
gamer lingo.
Jeff did raise a good point, and this was, the point was made by Fields by mistake in a presser, but Fields was trashed because they were trying to make him a player he wasn't. That could be very, very much how this plays out for the rest of the season. I just need some consistency until I form a permanent decision. But I did draft Justin Fields in quite a few leagues, but I've been able to bounce him back and forth. Now I'm putting him back in my lineups. But after that first showing, second week, third week, it was pretty depressing. Let's go to New Orleans. Let's talk about the Saints -1.5 at Houston. CJ Stroud, Houston Texans, just the forgotten about team this season, playing some decent football. Now looking at the Saints, Alvin Kamara looking great back. So glad to have him on my teams. How are you feeling about this one right here, Howard?
Yeah, this is another one that I'm really not sure about. I don't necessarily know how I feel. I think the problem that I have is that the Saints lack an identity right now. Right? We don't know about Derek Carr and his shoulder, and there's Michael Thomas and Chris Olave. Is Alvin Kamara just going to continue to get fed right now? Is that what they're doing? I love Kamara this week against Houston because they have a sus run defense. Their run defense is sus. And you know what? And I don't think that their secondary is really all that good either. Everybody got to a discussion with John Mpemba one day, and I was like, yeah, the reason that their defense looks good, the metrics look great, is because nobody's throwing on them. That's, nobody's making that attempt whatsoever. Yeah. And so, because all you do is run on them. And so when Jimmy Ward popped off like an idiot for Houston and was like, yeah, when we're prepping for Atlanta, we're not really that worried about, they don't pass the ball. So we're not really worrying that much about it. We're, focusing on stuffing the run. And then what did they do? They went and they had Desmond Ridder throw for over 300 yards against them. And so if your pass defense was that good, I don't care if you're scheming to stop the run. When you see how much they're throwing and that it's Desmond Ridder, then you change courses and you game plan differently. Then you make that adjustment. If they're not really a good pass defense, like they were just exposed, then the adjustments don't mean anything. So, I look at this and I want to see that Saints passing attack to kind of beat them up as well. So my lean right now is another road favorite here. Not another road favorite, but a road favorite, and taking another road favorite. I took the Vikings also. So yeah, Saints -1.5 over Houston. Kind of in that boat right now.
All right, we're going to go one more here on the team totals and the point spreads to watch. And then I need to get these highest game totals because we got a lot of talking to do here. I got a lot of thoughts, but let's talk about the Lions -3 at Tampa Bay.
Why is it only 3?
I agree, but Baker Mayfield and Gardner Minshew being part of our vernacular again is very strange.
Right. I'm going to start Tim Tebow and Taysom Hill in my my lineup too.
Taysom Hill. Yeah. But Jared Goff is getting it done.
Jared Goff's doing great. He's
And by the way,
absolutely been great.
I heavily drafted Jared Goff. At the same time, I refused to draft Dak Prescott. I only drafted Dak in best ball, not in season long, because I didn't want to feel pain twice. It's my team, not pain. But Jared Goff, who I was able to get at such a value, really getting it done.
Really getting it done. That's why, we were talking about that before. If you draft Justin Fields in the 5th round, take a Jared Goff in the 10th. Don't take Tua. You don't need that. My lean here is just the Lions -3. This isn't the usual Tampa defense. I like Todd Bowles as a coach / defensive coordinator. I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to be able to withstand the pass rush. I think Aiden Hutchinson is going to have a field day.
This kid's good.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's really good.
Anzalone, the linebacker, it's another one right there. I mean, so I worry about, Tampa's offensive line holding up So I'll lean the Lions here as well.
And for those of you who didn't draft Jared Goff like I did, because I felt so good about the value and the fact that he did have a consistent season and he had some weapons, he's already at 1,265 yards on the season with 9 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Those are good numbers. And Goff was a good value. Now we're going to go into these totals because my Dallas Cowboys are part of this conversation. And I do think this is going to be a high scoring game. But I cannot decide who's going to win because I will not bet on the Dallas Cowboys. I would bet on this team total. It's Dallas taking on the Los Angeles Chargers, and the total for Monday Night Football is 50.5. Where are you going here? Are you going with an over? Because I think this could be a high-scoring game. It doesn't mean Dallas wins, though.
Yeah, I think this is about how bad the Chargers defense is. Now, did they fix some things over the bye week? Maybe, but I mean, I still think that Dallas can be productive enough. Now, are there shortcomings in the Dallas D in certain places? Can the Chargers actually withstand, and can they put some points up? I do think they can. They're getting back Austin Eckler. I'm going to lean on the over here. Big marquee Monday Night Football game. However, I will say this. The under is 6-1 on Monday Night Football right now.
That's something to consider. That's definitely something to consider.
But Kellen Moore, revenge game narrative.
I know, and you love the revenge game narrative. I was talking about Jared Goff. Well, when you look at what Dak has put up, he's only put up 1,061 yards so far this season with 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. How can this be my quarterback?
I wake up every day and I look at Zach Wilson and I say the exact same thing.
Yeah, but Zach Wilson is not Dak Prescott. Zach Wilson was a backup quarterback who was supposed to be behind Aaron Rodgers. Dak Prescott has been our starting quarterback for years. You could be very much right that ankle injury has never been right since then. But with the weapons that are so inconsistent, CD, not a great week. Michael Gallup, it's just best ball only or DFS.
Maybe he's
value.
not that good. Maybe that's the thing. We see this when you change a quarterback style, they're not as strong. And maybe that's what it is with Dak. Maybe you guys just need to accept the fact that he's not the same player he was, and you guys need somebody who is a better passer, a stronger passer, makes better decisions. You need somebody with a little something upstairs, not whatever Dak is, he goes like this and you hear that little pea rattling around inside his skull. Maybe he's just not that smart.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Is that Looney Tunes or is that Rick Wolf? That's what I want to know. I was asking you.
Three Stooges.
Oh,
I was waiting for Brian. I knew I wasn't going to answer that question. I didn't know the answer.
Come on. I was making a Rick Wolf joke. Come on.
I get it, but obviously I didn't get it. Okay. We've got questions flying in, and since we're on our last 10 minutes of the show, I'm horrible. I know.
All right. I'll rapid fire. Go ahead. You ask the questions. I'll give the answers.
Full PPR can only keep 3 running backs. I need to drop one now that Taylor is back. Who do I drop? James Cook, Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, or Jonathan Taylor?
Oh, I mean, that's an impossibility there. I guess James Cook is probably your worst running back there. I would James Cook, but I mean, try and trade somebody in this running back economy in which we live. You need to make a trade. Don't drop, trade.
I would as well. Okay, we got another one here. I've got Brees, Henry, and Mixon as my running back. Is Saquon for Amon-Ra St. Brown a good trade?
I mean, if you already have those 3 starting, strong running backs, do you need to add Saquon to that mix? I don't think so. I think you can, I would rather, or if you're trading away Saquon, Amon-Ra, I like Amon-Ra. I do. But he is coming back from this injury. We're not sure exactly what's going on. I don't know if I would do that straight up, though.
So he would be trading away Saquon, but his second wide receiver is Amari Cooper, and that's kind of sus right now.
That's super sus, absolutely. But, I mean, for Saquon Barkley, you should be able to get somebody who's not injured right now, like Amon-Ra.
Here's the issue. Richard cannot trade. He must pull JT off the IR before he can make a move.
Oh, that sucks.
Fully spelled out sucks. Okay.
You
Never
gotta get out of leagues that force these roster requirements on you. If you want 5 running backs on a 6-man bench, you should be allowed to have that. This, only allowed 3 running backs on your roster. That's garbage. That's sus. That's sus.
Let's go to.
There are rules.
There are rules. There are definitely rules, and we're doing our best to not follow them. Let's go to Carolina at Miami. The total for this game right now is 48.5. We're looking at Miami that they could put up 47.5 of those points. What will Carolina contribute? Is this an obvious over, or Howard, is it too kind of simple for it to be an over?
Yeah, it's too kind of simple to be an over for me. I just, as great as Miami is, the Carolina defense, you run against them, not pass against them. So you're going to see a lot of Raheem Mostert. You'll also see some Jeff Wilson if he's activated. If not, Salvon Ahmed already returned. When you run the football heavily, it chews up the clock. It kind of tilts towards the under. And again, I mean, Vic Fangio scheming against Bryce Young and company, I'm okay with that. I might tilt on the under here.
Let's talk about tomorrow night's game. Denver at KC. Total points right here is 48. How are we feeling about this one, Howard?
I feel like we can hit the over on this one. I do. I think that Kansas City's defense is getting better, but it's still Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. You've got some playmakers there on the team, so I think that they're not going to keep pace, but was Kansas City's going to start blowing them out the door. But, I think that Denver can still put up 20 points in this game and easily push this one to the over.
And we'll go for one more right here. If anybody else has any questions, we want to get to you first. We thank you all so much for being in the chat. And a question did just pop up. Should I keep Miles Sanders on the bench against Miami?
I mean, it depends on who your other options are, but yeah, he's getting kind of tough to start right now. I need to know who your other options are, but yeah, Sanders, I don't mind if you've got a better running back or somebody who's in a much more favorable matchup, then yeah, you might want to do that.
Couple reminders for everybody. The DK challenge, the free challenge, you get those bragging rights. We read that winning lineup every week. That link is available on my timeline at The Real Lisa Ann. Make sure you go and you check out everything to win and do better in all of your fantasy sports betting. Everything you need to know is right there for you at Fantasy Alarm. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win. And as you love the higher, lower segments we do every week right here on Underdog Fantasy, you can make sure you go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog and use the promo code ALARM. George says, thank you, Howard and Lisa, for a great show full of good information. That was like a Yelp review. I really liked it. Peace. The shades. What's happening right there, Howard?
Just feeling really cool right now, Lisa. I spent 2 hours with you, and I'm the coolest guy in the world, and everybody knows it.
Well, I feel super cool with you as well, and Brian Burns and Better Boss in the chat, and all of you. We appreciate all of you. Don't forget to share these with your friends. You can go to YouTube. You go to the live. You just hit that share hour. You put it on Facebook. You put it on X. You can put it on Spaces. You can put it on Blue Sky. You can put it on Lemonade. I don't know if you know Clapper. These are all the new social media. I'm signed up for all of them, so nobody takes my name. So as soon as one pops off, I've got to sign up for it because I don't want someone else to be me.
I'm on Tinder. I'm on Bumble. I'm on Grindr. I'm on everything. No, I'm not on any of that.
I love it all. Thank you, Lori. Mom, Brian Burns' mom. Is that your mom? And she was here and she was late. Great to see you in here. We appreciate all of you following along on social media at Better Network, at Roto Buzz Guy, at Fantasy Alarm. Brian Burns, you absolutely rocked. I made it before the beep, beep, beep happened right here, Howard. Everybody enjoy the weekend.
There it is.
There it is. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the games. Howard, it's great doing a show with you. I absolutely love working with you every week. And thank you all for being right here in the chat. Komet better not fall flat, Byron says. Thank you for listening to Lisa Ann Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm.